All right, Craig Hocknull here. Welcome to my backyard. I'm just going to go through an in-service training for Gilbert School District PE teachers on what I use in my after-school golf classes and just teaching and coaching golf, whether it's on a school property, in a gym, out in the field, or at a golf course. So I'm going to run through some of the things that I use. So what I got, guys, is basically a progression. So if I were to break down, golf into the game of golf is where you end up, right? So you land at hitting a ball from point A to point B. That's basically golf, right? On a golf course, there's a hole that the ball goes into. In the field or the gym, it can go into anything or hit anything. So that's the end result, is the game part, and that's the part that the kids love doing the most, is the playing of the game. But in order to get them there, you have to have some just general basic skills, right? So throwing is an excellent skill for golf. Typically, even at the PGA Tour level, if you were to take a LPGA or a PGA Tour player and said throw a ball, they're going to throw it. I mean, you're going to see them throw it like a high school athlete is going to throw a ball. So getting kids to throw things, whether they're balls or frisbees, is an excellent way to do that. Old school pros would say take a ball or take a rock and skip it at the lake is basically an excellent movement for making the golf swing, right? So taking a rock and skipping it, or a sidearm pitch or a throw, or a frisbee throw. So I'm going to run through some of the things. You can see I've got an obstacle course set up out here. So a kid would go from here, they'd take a ball, kind of kick it through there, pick it up, jog through there, drop it down in that station. That station is a box, right? So within the rules of golf, you play from a tee box. And it literally, even though on a golf course there's typically two markers, it's actually a box, because that distance from the front backwards is 2 club lengths. So there's a distinct line from the front edge and then 2 club lengths back, which creates a box shape. The ball has to be played from inside the tee box on a regular golf course, otherwise it's a penalty stroke. Or it could be disqualification if they don't rectify it. So you've got a fun obstacle course. You can set that up however you want. I typically like these kind of tunnels and stepping ladders and stuff like that. Then I've got frisbees, right? So here, I'll let you film that.
Okay.
So basically we talked about throwing and frisbeeing, right? So if I had a tennis ball and I was teaching a kid how to kind of sidearm throw it with my right arm, that's basically, as a right-handed golfer, that's my right-handed follow through. If I have a frisbee in my left hand and I teach them to throw a frisbee backhanded, that's essentially like my right-handed swing, but the utilization of the left hand, right? Mm-hmm. So as I'm throwing a frisbee with my lead hand, or left, and then throwing it underhand with a tennis ball, I'm kind of working both sides. And as you know, these kids, they don't really know necessarily what side of the club they're going to swing from, so you just have them do it both.
Yeah.
Have them frisbee it this way, have them throw it this way. And what I found is, when I let the kids show me what hand they play golf from, then I can coach them much easier.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you get everybody lined up and you say, okay, everybody throw left-handed frisbees and right-handed tennis balls. And then all of a sudden you look at it and you go, all right, you 3 go to that end and turn inward. You're actually going to spend most of your time doing right-handed frisbees and left-handed tennis balls.
Do you have a lot of righties hitting left?
It depends. I mean, when they're young, I like to make sure they do everything.
Yeah.
I'll have them do double both sides, and I won't necessarily decide. But as they move up, we talk about going from, this equipment can obviously be used at kindergarten all the way up. Yep. Once they start hitting, like 7 years old, then they are kind of starting to move one direction or another. One of my kids started righty and stayed righty. The second kid started lefty and I switched him righty because his golf swing, when he started, he just naturally wanted to be different, I think, and just grabbed a lefty club. And he would have this really high lefty backswing and then a really short follow through. And I looked at that and I said, no, I want to switch that. So I would rather him have like a shorter righty to a bigger finish. And so since switching him, he's been a much better golfer because I switched him. And I switched him when he was about 12 years old, so it was probably a little late, but and he gave me some pushback on that, but it worked. So now he's a much better golfer righty. And then my third son, he's lefty, and he's been lefty the whole way. So between the three of them, I've kind of messed with both sides.
Sure.
So we got that exercise, and then obviously kicking is fun as well. And so what I try to do is incorporate the exercises into the actual playing of the game. So when you have a box, you can set that up as a teeing box, but you can also set that up as your destination for the ball. So that becomes the hole as well, right? So if I'm frisbeeing, I'm trying to frisbee into this box, right? So I'll frisbee into here. And you can basically, when you set up your field or your gym, you just set up boxes. So if you can picture 9 boxes would be 9 holes, right? Or we'd need probably 10 boxes, but you just recycle them through. So if I'm throwing frisbees and I'm counting how many times does it take me to left-handed throw my frisbee into that box, then I can keep score. So over here, I've got scorecards that I picked up from a local golf course, and you can actually have the kids sit and write down their score because they're starting to learn how to actually play the game. So same thing here, you're throwing the ball there. So that exercise itself is for just kind of figuring out the disciplines, figuring out what side they're going to be most efficient from.
Yep. Do they, when they have both in their hand, do they do one first and then the other? They don't do both at the same time.
You can start with one,
okay,
and then you can do 2 at the same time.
Right? Okay.
And depending on your group and ages and skill levels and power of throw, you can have them do this in 2 lines, like warming up in softball. You can have them throw to each other,
right,
and then throw back, and then you've got 2 big lines of kids going back and forth. So, so a progression on that is this training tool right here. It's called the Air Golf Flyer, right? So what we're basically saying is, from a throw of this end, we're saying, how do we then take a stick and then hit a ball? Well, we can progress into something that's halfway there. So let's say I'm out playing and I've got my boxes set up all around. Now I can just go from here, and you can teach the kids, okay, I'm going to throw from one box into another box, and just kind of teach them with that movement. And and then what they're learning is how that centrifugal force can be propelled. And you can take the tennis ball on a string, go all the way. This is basically an excellent way just to kind of teach the golf movement. It's a tennis ball, it's hitting my back, I'm not hitting myself hard.
Yeah.
And then I'm working on like an underhanded throw. You can start really short and throw it, then you can work out a little bit longer, right? So you go from frisbees to air flyers and balls, kicking, throwing, anything you want to do to kind of start the idea of, hey, we're moving. An obstacle course is a golf course. We're moving from point A, the tee box, to a destination, which in this case is another box, and then we're going to progress, right? So as we look at the equipment, this section right here, these sabers we're going to work on. I'm going to coach you guys on how to actually use the sabers to develop your swings. Then you can move into regular golf clubs with steel heads. And then right here, you'll see they've got different grips. So this particular one here has a training grip on it. They're a little harder to come by, but you can cut down. This is just an adult club. You cut it down and it has spaces for your thumb and finger to go on there. Wind blows my tunnel. My best starting club is a putter, because a double-sided putter, because again, with the little ones, you don't know if they're gonna hit right or left.
Right.
So you want to continue to work with them on figuring that out. When you're working indoors, this is a saber putting ruler right here. So this is fun just to kind of put on the carpet. You can use it a couple different ways. You can play a game where you give each kid a ruler, take a golf ball, and you say, okay, we're gonna roll it again from point A to point B. And they sit it on the ruler and they roll it down, because there's a channel cut in here. and they're basically putting using a ruler. So they're learning how to aim. When we do this out at the golf course, it's great because we have a lot of breaks and slopes on the greens, and instead of the kids putting all over, they're using this to kind of start learning how to read what those breaks are. This particular item I'll show you in a little bit later. That's an impact trainer. This is like a little putting disc. So when you're putting your ball and you're trying to putt on the carpet, and it kind of makes a sound like it's going in a hole when it hits. So you putt up over this little ridge right here, and as the ball pops up over the ridge, the goal would be for it to stop inside the disc.
All right.
It's tricky, Dan. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
That's golf, right?
Yeah, sure.
So if we're coaching these kids on something that's realistic, that's what they're going to have to learn. But you know, we don't get too many cold or rainy days, but if you're going to do an indoor activity, especially as it gets really hot, this is great because the kids are working on a valuable putting skill, and you know, they're constantly putting, trying to get it in here.
And that's with the trainer or even regular putter?
With a regular putter.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you had a double-sided putter like this, which is an actual putter, it's made out of zinc alloy, a zinc alloy, or a plastic one, like some of these ones that you'll be able to get from Gopher, or this particular company is called Snag.
Okay.
The Snag company basically dominated this space for a long time, but now there's competitors out there with this type of equipment. And then these types of targets, you can then put these also on the carpet and putt, and you get 1 point, you know, for rolling it up and having it stop in the white section, and then maybe 3 points for rolling it and getting it inside the blue. And then you can flip it over, then just use it that way too, just to try to get them to roll balls up onto. I also use these as targets for actually doing little chipping. So I'll put the target out on the grass, and I'll take one of these, which is a double-sided chipper. Again, you don't really know if the kid's gonna play right or left-handed. So when you're trying to identify a piece of equipment that could be used in your PE class, you're able to use a double-sided chipper. Now this is obviously a you know, smaller, but when you're chipping with it, you're basically using like a putting stroke, and so you go back and it jumps it in the air. So this then in the Snag equipment is called a launcher. So you've got bigger heads. What I found, however, is the relationship of the club head to the ball is important. So if we look at these right here, and I'll grab a launcher, if you're actually striking a big ball with a big club head, it kind of makes sense. But as you move smaller and smaller, the proportion of the big head to the small ball actually makes it harder to kind of get that big head underneath. It's easier from a surface area to make contact, but a lot of kids will struggle once you get down a little bit less than a tennis ball. I'll put my tennis ball back out here. All right. So this is like a memory foam ball. I tend to like these because they deaden the blow a little bit. When we do our little exercise, you'll see that. If you use an inflatable ball, sometimes like a dodgeball, they spring and that ball like takes off like a rocket. This one is a little softer. This is one of those harder like plastic ones. Not a big fan because they're a little hard, and if someone does get hit with them, they hurt a little bit more. This one here is just foam, right? And then this is a big tennis ball. This is actually a little foam baseball, and then a tennis ball, a small tennis ball, and then this again is this is one of my favorite pieces. It's just a little foam golf ball, and those are great. They don't really cause too much damage or injure anybody. Then if you get really advanced and you progress kind of through a lot of this stuff, you can actually set up a golf net. This would be maybe for middle school to high school, where you set up a golf net and you purchase a launch monitor. You can get pretty good launch monitors now for around $300 to $500, and obviously it's an expense, but it gives you really cool feedback to the app on your phone. So you're striking a ball into a net, and it will actually give you a projection of the ball flight. It tells you the spin of the ball, the distance, all that kind of stuff.
That's really cool.
What I find more often is that PE teachers spend more time hitting balls in the net using the launch monitor because they're working on their own games.
Yeah, that's, I was gonna say I would use that for myself.
So you can progress from, you know, something extremely simple with not even really hitting anything, starting with tennis balls, foam balls, obstacle courses, set up stations, set up these boxes, right? And then go from box to box. So the exercise of going from skill development, frisbee and throwing, to moving to stick and ball, and then making it a game and making it fun. Those are kind of the three magic pieces for me. If I can teach them to move and throw objects better, I know they're going to progress. If I can then work them through the saber exercise that I'm going to show you, that's going to help them with their actual swinging mechanics. And then to keep it fun, you always want to make a game out of it. A couple more items I'll share with you before we get into saber. Indoors, working in the gym, this is what's called a launch pad, because this is a launcher. And so in the gym, you've got a rubberized tee, and then typically what you're using is a tennis ball that can stick to a Velcro target, right? So you set up your tennis ball, and the reason why you've got this little launch pad here is because that way you're not damaging the gym floor or the equipment, you know, hitting concrete or whatever. But that's a good tool that they came up with. Allows you to put an arrow on it. There's actually arrows on the balls as well. And then when you hit into the target, this one here, it'll Velcro and stick. And then to make it fun, our golf programs have typically, we've suited up, you know, we'll pick an intern or one of our coaches, suit them up in the sticky suit. And as we suit them up in the sticky suit, the kids will line up like a driving range format and hit balls at whoever's wearing the suit, and then it sticks to their
that's
target. Great. Snag also has a couple other options. This is called a snapper, right? So you swing it back and you try to snap it, like crack a whip. So when you snap it, it's giving the kids a swing motion. This one is called a snag-a-zoo. It has a sound to it, so you get it up here, swing it through, it makes a sound. This particular one, snag-a-matic, goes on the grip, and what it does is it kind of helps. It's basically like a coat hanger. Teaches the kids to kind of hinge back and forth. So I used all of this stuff only to come up with my own invention that I felt like was just a combination of a lot of things. So what we'll do is I'm going to run you through the saber exercise. We'll set up some cones. We'll kind of start like I normally would a class.
All right.
And I'll show you how to operate that. So let me grab the camera.
All right.
I'll have you guys grab that stack of cones, and then grab a saber each. Grab a smaller one. Yeah. And then come on out here. And we'll just set this camera here. All right. So then what we do is we kind of come to the middle, and you'll give each kid, so we'll just take 3. You can put that right here. Probably right here is good. All right. So then each kid would get a saber and a cone. Right? And then what we do is we stand in the middle with our backs to each other. All right. So just kind of pick a corner, and then we're going to take like 5 big steps out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? And what that's done is that's going to create, if you've got 10 or 20 kids, 10 or 20 kids is going to create a circle. Right? Once you've created that circle, one thing you're going to do is make sure, so Eric, grab my saber with your left hand. Right, Ryan, we'll do the same thing. Right, so if we're all in a big circle like this, we kind of back up, back up, back up. Then we might expand the circle a little bit more, and then that way we're not going to hit each other, right? So then when we drop our saber here, the next step is for us to face out of the circle. So we're going to face in that direction. right? So as we go through this exercise, the saber itself, and I'll show this on the camera, the saber itself has a routine written on here. So this is a newer version than the one you guys have. This has the information written on it. So it says grip, stance, bow, pop, drop, spin, set, snap, hold, right? So it's written on it for the kids. We're gonna go through it. So come in here a little closer. And you guys stand here and here, and then we'll film with this over my shoulder a little bit. So first step is grip. So hold your saber up in the air. 2 hands, put your feet together, right? So this is step 1 is grip. So at this point, I can come along and check people's grips, and I can say, well, actually, Eric, when you were doing your throwing, you like to go from the right hand is stronger. So I'm going to have you switch your hands back and forth, right? So you might say righties like this, lefties like this, right? Then you're going to say thumb on top. It's like a hot dog in a bun. So there's your hot dog, and you kind of cover it up with your other hand. That's the bun. Wrap it over the top, right? Some kids are going to have played before, and what they're going to have done is they're going to have done like an interlocking or an overlapping. But what I found biomechanically is that if kids play with if anybody plays from a 10-finger grip, it's much better than if they go interlocking or overlapping. Because what's happened over the years is golfers have passed down information from one player to another, and that's all it is. It's just information passed down. It's not necessarily correct. So if we get both hands put on there with all 10 fingers put on there, that's going to be better for us. So we'll run through the routine. So grip is feet together, saber up in the air. Aren't kind of elbows to your side. This is grip. Stance, spread your feet apart. You're going to see some kids go like the splits, and then you're going to see some kids just go real tiny. It doesn't really matter when they're learning, but I would say make a width so that your feet are right down underneath your pockets, right down underneath. Like if you could jump up in the air, that's where you want your feet. If they're super wide, that's not effective jumping, and if they're super narrow, that's not effective jumping, right? So wherever you can jump from, that's where we want the feet. So grip is feet together, stance, feet apart. Next word is bow, right? So a bow, if you think about like in karate, or if you're like going to a dance or something, you're kind of bowing from the waist. Bow, right? Now what we find here is we see slouching, heads come down. So what I like for the kids to do is keep their eyes up on the saber and just do a little bow, right? The next word is pop. When they pop, they're just going to pop their knees. So it goes pop. And the next word is drop. That's when you drop it. And you can hear the ball just dropped, right? The next word is spin. So what I mean by spin, that's kind of like the backswing. But I like the word spin because I want the golfer to spin their body, actually turn their hips. And then what happens is they set is the next word. Set up top. And then you can go ahead and snap it. And then the final one is hold, right? So we'll go through all of these. Go ahead, grip, feet together, stance, bow, pop, drop, spin, set. You wait for that ball to drop, snap, and hold. And the hold position is that ball has returned into your hands again because you're holding the ball at this end. All right, so we'll do it again. All right, so grip, stance, bow, pop, drop, spin, set, snap, hold. Right, so we want them to just keep their feet down. We want to keep them balanced in that position. So now you can picture, how many kids would you normally have?
Anywhere from 20 to 30.
Right, so if you got 20 to 30 kids, you can split them into 10s and 15s. Get 10 or 15 sabers or whatever it is, and you can have them work in and out, or you can split the groups and have other kids playing other games while you've got your sabers out there, right? But what you've done is you've created this circle, and in essence, so I'll have you guys stand out by your cone, right? So while you're out there and you picture all these kids around here, the coach is in the middle going like this, grip, stance, job, right? They're going through the whole routine. And so what you're building is the entire process. So then when you move to another stick, which is a golf club of some kind, you're then progressing and doing that. So the next exercise I'm going to have us do is just set up what I call my saber golf game. So what I'll have you guys do is take some cones and make a circle. I'm going to grab a ball.
So you don't have an interlocking grip yourself?
I do, yeah. But again, that was taught to me by my dad.
Right. Yeah.
And then eventually you discover that, that's just information that just got passed down. It wasn't necessarily biomechanically correct. So
Switch to not?
I have, yeah. I have, and I've seen mixed results, but I think for myself, like if I wasn't competing in tournament play, I would switch.
Yeah.
Because I've actually seen my fingers get injured from interlocking.
Wow. Right.
But what I found under pressure in tournament situation is I can't do it. So I just got to go back to what I'm used to. Yeah. All right, so here's what I do. I basically set up a big circle, right? Now you can play this as a baseball game with the older kids if they understand it. Or you can play it like this, which I found to be more fun and kind of a little safer, right? So what you do is you set a target in the middle, or not a target, but a base, or a hula hoop or something like that. And then you essentially have a home base here, right? Now this keeps pretty much every kid involved in the game, right? So here's the way the game is played. It's kind of like baseball in the sense that you hit and run. But what you do is your goal is to get all the way around back to home base, right? Now you only get one chance at it because you're going to switch out. So what we're going to have is a batter in essence and a fielder. So go ahead and put your saber down by the cones over here, right? Now you guys are going to be the fielders. I'll start with the routine. So the reason why I create a big circle like this is because you're going to hit this ball with a stick. Okay. And it can fly pretty fast.
Yeah.
So the rule is you can't field inside the circle.
Okay.
So you got to be outside, like the outfield, right? Then as a coach, you're going to be here making sure they're doing their routine. So the kid goes through everything: grip, stance, bow, pop, drop. And then when they drop, you kind of teach them, okay, this is where you're going to go. And then you're looking at your fielders and you say, okay, well, there's an opening over here. So then you can kind of teach the kid to kind of aim a little bit. But obviously with 30 kids, there's not very many gaps, all right? Now, when you field the ball, your objective is to grab the ball and run and stand on this plate. That stops the play, right? So I hit and I try to run and get all the way back to here. If I don't get all the way back, I didn't get a point. Now, you could do it with teams, right? Where I would hit, maybe I get all the way to this cone, right? So I come running around here, and Eric's got the ball, and he steps on that. Okay, so this is where I stand. Okay. All right? And then the player hits, and then I try to get all the way back. So you can have teams and do it that way. But you're not throwing a ball at anybody.
No.
Right? You're not tagging them. You're just getting the ball and running to that spot. Now, you could work as a team. So if I hit it really far, you could pass it to another player and they could run, because it doesn't really matter. Usually what I do is I say whoever gets the ball and gets on the plate, they get to hit.
Okay.
All right? So then it encourages them to actually actively run after the ball and run in here. So grip, stance, bow, pop, drop. I'm going to kind of pick a target, right? Spin. A lot of kids will rush this part and they'll try to hit it. You want to tell them to pause, set, they snap, drop the saber, run around the base. They try to get as far as they can. Okay, this is where I would stop. So in a team environment, you could say you could give them 2 shots. Whoever goes there goes and hits, and then that person keeps running You can involve them however you.
So in a
however
team
you want.
environment, there's no outs then?
No.
Okay.
You just stay where you are. So
Right.
if the next kid hits, and they come running around, and this kid makes it to this cone, and that kid makes it to that cone, right?
That's a
Then you've
mistake,
got
yep.
it. And
And then everybody hits, and then we can switch, or like
Yeah.
baseball.
Like
So
baseball.
you could have more than 2 out here at a time.
Yeah,
You could have however many.
Exactly. Yeah, depending. And one of the things that I like about it is, and we set up a pretty small circle, right? So you would have, instead of taking 5 paces out like we did here, you might take 10 or 20. So the more kids you have, the bigger your circle. And that's for, you know, safety and size and everything. And then as the kids are running, like you've got a team lined up over here, everybody's kind of gets involved pretty quickly.
Sure.
And if you've got, let's say, a group of 20, you got 10 out here, and you got a really big circle, and the fielders are doing a really good job, they might stop that player from getting all the way. You might have 10 kids running the circle, and then you're like, okay, we don't have any more players left.
Oh yeah.
But usually it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
And then all you do is you say, okay, we're going to do this. You know, you just give a time limit. We're going to do this for 5 minutes or whatever it is. You guys run around, then we're going to switch teams. If you're doing it to get outs, like to actually do like scoring, what I would do is set it up more like a baseball diamond. So then you get your baseball diamond set up out there, and you essentially do the same thing, except you're trying to run to the bases and maybe get them out at certain bases. So you can incorporate golf into the other sports.
Sure.
Right. So that's how you kind of run through the saber itself. You know, these things are not that heavy. They're got the information written on them.
Yeah.
And then what I do with the kids is, as I have them go through it, I'll have them read it, shout it out. So drill sergeant style. So I'll be right here and I'll go grip, and everybody else will go grip.
Yeah.
Stance, stance. And then somebody, the next one will be bow, and I'll go bow, and somebody will go pop. And then I'll go, no, Eric, you did that wrong. Like, start
Bow
over.
first.
All right, everybody back together. We do this together as a group. Feet together. Let's do it all together, right? And then what I'll do is, after I've had myself do it, then I'll flip it so you can't read it. So I'll say, okay, everybody, take that bright color, put it up on top, and look at that. You're not reading on the side. Okay, so who can do it from memory? All right, little Johnny, you're gonna lead the group. So you're still in your big circle, and now you're kind of facing each other, and everybody's looking at each other in a big circle, and you're going, grip, and everybody's going through the whole routine, right? So it's a cool exercise to do, but what it does for me as a coach is it starts to really plant in this golf swing motion, and the fact that it has a ball in it, it clicks. Basically, the louder it clicks, the further the kid's gonna hit the ball, right? The faster they're swinging. So when they go through the exercise and they're doing this motion, once you hand them a club of some kind, whether it's something from Gopher or actual real golf club, using foam balls, when they start going through that whole routine, and then they pull back here and they pause for a second, and then they like rip through it, you'll see them hitting fantastic golf shots, and you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this when I was this age? You know?
Yeah, really.
And then what that does is the game part kind of hits them in their soul as, I want to be a golfer. The skill part just like by osmosis kind of works into them, and then all of a sudden they've got really good golf swings, really quality swings, really powerful swings, and they didn't even know they were learning that, right? So as they're working on getting their actual swing, we'll go back over here, as they work on getting their actual swing down, it's just fun clicking the saber back and forth.
Sure.
And what they don't realize is they're actually getting really good at it.
Yeah.
And then,
This, huh?
what's that?
You invented
Yeah, this is my invention, yeah. And so when you start going from gameplay and you give it a fun thing, maybe some scoring's involved, maybe you develop your own like team competitions, that kind of stuff, you can, you know, you really it really resonates with that kid, right? And that kid's like, hey, golf is fun. I want to be a golfer. So what we found is when they're doing obstacle course and they're running through tunnels and they're running through ladders and they're hitting balls and they associate that with golf, when their parents say, do you want to go play golf? This is what they think of, right? So it's important for us is to then be able to say, okay, well, we need to help you go further. So from your PE classes, you need to go find other golf programs at other golf courses and level up. And then what we want is the golf coaches using the same kind of method at the courses, because then they have holes, they've got putting greens, they've got bunkers, all that kind of stuff. So they're able to progress into the actual game of golf. But what I found is that I've got kids now that are graduating high school that started this with me, and randomly I'll bump into them and they'll go, you wouldn't believe, like, Junior, how good his swing is, and it all started because you were actually teaching proper technique. And then what that does for me as a PGA professional is it helps grow the sport of golf, right? So I started it because I wanted kids to actually not only attempt golf, but actually be good at it so that they would want to play and play more. So that's my goal in introducing this type of technique to PE teachers, is that you guys and gals that are out there working with these kids, you're introducing them to something that they've never done before, but you're doing it in a fun way that they think automatically when you say the word golf, they're like, oh yeah, golf, we did all these things, I want to do golf. In traditional golf, what most kids think of is it's too hot, I got bit by ants, I was told to stand in this position forever, and then when I took this standard golf club and I hit this standard golf ball, I like took like 10 swings and I missed every time. And then when I walked out of my space on the driving range, I almost got hit by that kid. And then it was just boring and I didn't like it. And so I think kids, like myself, I went through the boring stuff and I became a really good golfer, but it was just something I wanted to do. I love the idea of golf. But when you're competing against soccer and football, volleyball, all the other sports, golf is way boring for kids, so we have to make it more exciting. So, yeah, exactly. Even when I was 12, I played golf from when I was like 3 or 4 all the way to 12. And then I was like, I'm done. I was really, really good at golf at that time, but I was too boring. I don't want to play golf anymore. I want to go do Aussie rules football. I played cricket, tennis, that kind of stuff. And the problem was I was just doing the same thing. And I was at that age where I wanted to go play golf on my own, but I couldn't. I couldn't go without an adult. And I was better than most of the adults that I went out with. And so as I played the courses, I was like, they're talking about adult stuff over here. They're walking. I had a little pull cart and I would just walk along and play, and I would hit shots and I would hit, in my mind, a bad shot. And just because I was a little kid, they would go, oh, great shot. And then I would go, come on now, that was horrible. Like, so I kind of got a feeling like they don't get it. You know, the adults don't get it. But when you're out there running around with the big balls and the indoor stuff and you're teaching them, this one here is for impact. It's just a foam piece, right? So when you do the saber, if you're in the gym and you don't want them actually hitting a ball, but you want them to hit something, you go through the whole routine: grip, stance, bow, pop, drop, kind of get in position, spin, set, you snap it, then it flies around, you grab it again and you hit it. So they're kind of working on hitting stuff, but yet you're not seeing balls flying all around the gym. But when you're using these foam balls and big balls, it's easy. So do you guys have questions? We can capture any information on this kind of stuff. Think about the questions and I'll kind of wrap up what I'm talking about. My goal is to make sure that kids learn the right way, right? Fundamentally correct, right? This tool at a glance, like a drill sergeant or a karate instructor or something, gives the coach an opportunity to scan and go, oh, they're not
split. Yeah.
they're not doing it right. They don't have hot dog in a bun, you know. When they go through and it's literally says bow and they pop, right? Or you don't hear the simultaneous click of 20 kids, you know that somebody, when they went back, they just swung.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't set.
Yeah.
And you look, you scan the group, set, snap. And then what you do is you just have them go back the other way. Flip it, snap it the other way. So when you're not sure if you got a lefty or a righty, you say, okay, everybody, right hand on top,
Yeah.
left hand on top. Okay, we're gonna go through the whole routine. This time we're gonna go this way.
Okay.
Grip stance, bow, pop, spin, set, snap, that way. So do you guys have any
What
thoughts or questions?
is like ironwood pitch?
Yeah, so
That's
each
something.
saber, good question. So each saber has a different size. So these particular sabers are intermediate. This is bigger, adult, more advanced, right? So the information, the markings on here, when you go from little kids that has all the information, grip stance, the routine, this particular thing is for actually for hitting a golf ball and setting up. So let's say I'm gonna aim down there at that tree. I take my saber and put it on the ground. I take the ball and put it right out here off of where it says ball. And then I take my club, right? It's positioned right off of ball. If I'm gonna do a little chip, so I put my left foot in the grip section, a chip is my right toe. A pitch, an iron, or a wood.
Oh, yeah.
So what that does is it teaches the golfer a single ball placement rather than moving the ball.
Yeah.
Right?
Great.
You can actually do it the other way. If you like to move the ball, you can flip the saber over. Now this is wood. You bring the ball back, iron, pitch, chip. You can bring the ball or you can move the right foot. Jack Nicklaus and Ben Hogan, they prescribe to a single ball position, right? So the left foot is here, chip, pitch, iron, wood. The ball essentially stays, if I was gonna hit it, I'd have it out here. But the ball stays in the same position and the foot moves.
Okay.
So that's an advanced
good to know.
feature
Yeah.
for the saber. So you have a saber kids, and then they go from a kids to a 1.0, which is a little bigger in red. The 1.0 has all this information. This is the 1.5.
Okay.
So once you go to the 1.5, it switches to this information. Then you go to a 2.0, which is the bigger one. And then you go to a long drive, which is what college golfers, professional golfers use. So we're progressing all the way. So,
And the light and the heavy?
yeah, good question. So when you have this information, it's balanced, so it's the same weight. When you go to the more advanced saber, so here, hold that one. If you grab the end that reads heavy, right? So read it heavy back toward you. If you waggle it and then flip it over the other way, you'll feel the weight change in your hands. So basically one end has more weight. So when you're gripping it and you're swinging it, you've got all the mass at this end. It's like an exercise training tool. When you flip it over and you're swinging the light end, then you're working on speed, right? And if anybody actually gets a saber, I've got 42 training videos on how to use the saber. There's 32 videos on what the saber does. And then there's another series of 10 videos on the 10 positions of the golf swing. So if somebody's more advanced, they want to learn more about how to actually improve their swing, when they buy a saber, they get access to all the training videos and then they follow all the training videos. So if you have a more advanced class, going into junior high and high school, then you can say, okay, we're actually going to sit down and we're going to watch Craig's videos on how to actually use the saber. And then what we're doing is then we're taking these introductory things and we're turning them into more advanced golfers.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes.
I'm glad we
Yeah,
could. We're glad we
appreciate it.
could kind of go through it.
Yeah.
and hopefully I'm playing in a tournament. And you
Yeah,
guys
hopefully.
Yes.
are explaining all this, and the video, if it worked out nicely, will be good to share.
Definitely.